BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, and it is of course Wednesday, and that means a review, and that means you're watching BodyBags as you should. And yeah, life is good, right? So hopefully your week is going well, and of course this is again VHS82. And today we are going to talk about, and I say we, my son Sam here, we're going to talk about a film that, well, I don't know, he probably loves this film more than I do. He definitely has seen it probably more than I have seen it. But we're going to talk about the Adam Green film from 2014. Of course, you can see it behind me, Digging Up the Marrow. Before this stuff leaves my head, it shouldn't be too hard. Of course, we are talking Adam Green. He writes, he produces, he directs. This is an effort of love from him. And we're going to talk about this a little bit. Of course, we're talking the cast, Ray Wise as Decker. And the beautiful part, what makes this movie really fun, is Adam Green plays himself. Will Barrett, who is a cinematographer and was throughout the Hatchet franchise. Although I don't know if he did Victor Crowley or not. But for the first 3 films, plays himself. And anyone and everyone else in this film, really, I think, plays themselves. And the film offers up, well, let's see. Kane Hodder has an interesting little bit in here, so I'll mention his name. Bear McCreary, who is the cinematographer, I don't know, I'm sorry, the composer, let's get these things right. Just recently, his last project was Happy Death Day to You. So if you've seen this movie, I haven't, then the music was this guy, which is pretty cool. But Will Barrett is the cinematographer, and as I said, he has been with Adam Green for pretty much the long haul. They play themselves, and the story is an interesting story. It's somewhat loosely based on some interesting things that have happened to Adam Green. He gets a letter, I guess. He's gotten a letter, and really it's this guy offers up this opportunity that he can't refuse, and it's the opportunity to prove once and for all that monsters are real. And of course, this is, hopefully there's no glare or anything, but this is the cover. The artwork's nice, pretty sweet artwork. And so, as I said, they're themselves, and Adam Green is, up to his neck in other projects, and really he should be focused on those things. But what he gets sort of derailed, or into this thing, because as we learn and find out throughout this film, Adam Green's one of his dreams, really, is to once and for all to be able to prove the notion that monsters are real ever since he was a little kid. And so he's enamored by this thought. And when Decker comes along and sends him this letter, he decides, hey, let's do a little documentary. We'll start interviewing this guy, and maybe it'll lead to some interesting places. And it will lead to some interesting places. So, anything you want to add to the plot?
I just think it's really interesting how they did it, how the whole story goes from him wanting to believe him and this story of his, into the very end, in which he has like a choice on whether he wants to keep going with this opportunity or to leave it alone.
Now, you've listened to the commentary a few times. I've listened to it, but not of recent. I revisited the film just to kind of get that vibe back going again. But you've listened to the commentary, so a couple things that might have come out of the commentary that might be interesting to the people watching, listening.
This is one of those movies that is made over a time span, like 4 years, like say Phantasm from 1978, that was like a 2-3 year process. This was a 4-year process, came out after Frozen in 2010. Yeah. And that's one. Another thing is you would learn a lot more stuff about the deeper into the story, like about Decker's past. Like if you watch the movie, you could probably just assume what the his past is, but the commentary more defines it, in which it makes it simpler to understand. So that was nice. And plus, this is the commentary is 4 people talking, which is Ray Wise, the artist, Alex, Will Barrett, and Adam. And then, yeah, they just talk.
So let me ask you something with the commentary. What kind of I mean, we've seen Adam Green. We see him in the movie, and one of the things I love about watching Adam Green in this movie is, like Eli Roth, both are noted for just their level of enthusiasm. They're like little kids doing the things that they love to do. Does that come out at all on the commentary?
Kinda. Well, when I saw it, which was a few days ago, I would say there probably is, but from right here, right now, since it has been a few days since I've seen the commentary, I wouldn't remember that well, but I think there is.
How was the commentary? Was it easy to listen to for you?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know traditionally, I love listening to commentaries all the time. You're just starting to come really to this idea of listening. You think you'll listen more based on listening to Digging Up the Marrow? Does it make you want to listen to more or less, or?
I think it would more depend on what the movie is, and like if it would like inspire me in a way to like write more and stuff. Like watching this movie, I really liked it, and when I watched the commentary, it basically gave me more to think about in writing, like more inspiration. So
because if they no one, just assume no one out there knows this at all, but for years and years, your dream someday is to what?
Be a film director.
But one of those unseen talents that have just now has come to light, though, is also you've got a pretty nifty talent in music. So, wherever you may suddenly find Jeremy Freeman, are you listening to this? My boy wants to get into the film industry, so anything you could say would be great. So, seeing people like Adam Green, even in this movie, since it's rooted in real life sort of situations, in a way, in terms of him acting out himself, and this movie's kind of cool because you get to actually go into a horror convention, and of course Adam gets sort of railroaded by several directors. Mick Garris, Don Coscarelli's there, Lloyd Kaufman is there, but who's the one guy who starts making, Tom Holland actually starts making fun of him. Of course, Child's Play, right? And you get all these real people in there. That's really cool. And so, and then you're sort of in his, in his little special room, I guess, where they edit, film out, and you can just kind of get an idea how Adam Green maybe lives a little bit. You kind of get to see him in a different way through this film. And one of the things I want to say about this film too is, JP did a pretty good review way back in episode 42, the comparison contrast of My Bloody Valentine original remake. But in the lead up to that review, he does the review on Digging Up the Marrow, which I'll put the link down below, as well as a link to his channel. Not that anyone listening or watching has no idea where his channel is, but I'll throw it down there anyways. But one of his criticisms, if it's a criticism, I don't know if it really is he loves Adam Green. He loves the idea of this film, and in the lead up to episode 42, I was just getting, I was still new to the whole 22 Shots of Horror and Moodz podcast, and so I think he might have mentioned Digging Up the Marrow a few times in the lead up to that review, like, hey, Adam Green's working on something, kind of blah, blah, blah. But one of the things he talks about is, this is a low-key film in terms of small scope. And the thing that could disappoint people is really we're never given the Marrow at the end, the underground world as it is laid out. This idea that there is a like a society of monsters, or perhaps more birth defect / mutated, a society of people who are living just out of our view. And this is what is slowly but surely surfacing to the light. And you really never get that in the end. But you know, in reading about, I'm a big fan of using, let's say, when I want to get a meaning of a word, I like to go to Webster's 1828. And when you look up the word Marrow, it's interesting that that in the Scottish dialect, if you use the word Marrow, you'd be referring to a companion or a friend or someone that holds similar interests to yourself. And so when you start really looking at the definition of this, and I think it also means the best to come. There's a deeper thing here going on with Adam Green, and Decker really ends up being, I think, the Marrow in of himself, in the idea that he's a like-minded person for Adam Green, and he's easy to get Adam Green sidetracked off of things that he ought to be doing. His focus ought to be other things, but Decker just pulls him off of it, because there's this allurement of finding out if this stuff is really real, and if it is, I've got to see it. And even during this film, there's a scene between him and Kane Hodder where Adam Green starts to get upset really for the first time, because he's so latched onto this idea that he just wants it to be true. And Kane Hodder sort of plays the skeptic, and these are great effects and everything. This is a certain scene that they're watching on film. And Adam Green is sort of, he's sort of kind of got this sort of thing going on, like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The monster's right before your eyes. He's like right there. And he's like a little kid, right? He wants us to be so real. And in the end, of course, his search, it leads to, the possibility of some bad things happening. We won't give it away, but I think there's another under the surface metaphor, and that is, it's good to think about things or to dream about things, but how we carry those things out, we got to be careful, I think, in a way. I think is a message underneath some of this going on. But 2014, Digging Up the Marrow, Adam Green. Of course, we also know him from Frozen, Halston, a slew of the Hatchet trilogy. The fourth one now just came out, Victor Crowley. But Adam Green, like Eli Roth, these are two guys that just love horror. They love they're like living out their dream. And to listen to these guys, and two, if you didn't know, I don't know if you have this in your collection or not, but Adam Green has a fan commentary track on this film. Now, I have not listened to this yet, or I can't remember if I did or not. But he's the kind of guy you want to hear on a commentary track. Eli Roth does, a slew of things for 88 Films and other companies in terms of getting like these little intro documentaries or whatever. And you could just see these guys, man, they're fans of this stuff. But this film is interesting because it holds some really interesting, thought-provoking things that if you really sit as small in scope, and again, in small in scope as this film may be, there's other bigger things that are happening underneath the surface. And one day, hopefully, maybe, they'll get to come back around full circle, maybe revisit this thing, but maybe have that big budget and maybe do this thing on a scale that has not been seen. Who knows? It'd be neat. It would be neat to see. So I have no idea where this time is. I hope it hasn't exceeded 15 minutes for sure, because I'd be in trouble then. But VHS82, my son Sam, this is week 280, I think 286, Wednesday, reviewer for BodyBags. And as always, we're just going to end here. If you've not seen this movie, see it. Or if it's been a while, revisit it. There is a commentary track on there. And there's some big things going on in this film. But anyways, until next week, as always, go Bill.